Okay, so this is the statue that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream. This statue represents the entirety of history from Nebuchadnezzar's day in Babylon right up until the end of time when Jesus Christ returns. So I'll keep this as simple as possible, so let's get into it. The great image that God revealed to Nebuchadnezzar in a dream was interpreted by the prophet Daniel. Each section represents a world-ruling superpower. Each succeeding metal is less valuable, but each metal then becomes stronger as each empire was more powerful than the last. So you have the gold head. This section of the statue represented the empire of Babylon itself, which Nebuchadnezzar was the king of. After that is the silver chest and arms. Now this represents the empire of the Medo-Persians, which conquered Babylon and took it over. And after that we have the bronze belly and thighs. This section represents the Greco-Macedonian Empire of Alexander the Great. This is all historical. You can check this, and the Book of Daniel was written 2,500 years ago. And after Greece we have the iron legs. This represents the Roman Empire. After Alexander the Great's death, his empire continued in a divided form until its divisions were taken over by Rome. The two legs signify the east and west division of the late Roman Empire. And then we get to the iron and clay, the feet and toes. Extending from the legs, the feet and toes of iron mixed with clay, a brittle and unstable mixture because it would not bond well. These represent the final phase of the Roman Empire, which will be made up of 10 kings, some strong and some weak. Now, as you've probably guessed by now, that the feet is the era of time that we're currently living in right now. You can see from this image here that later on in the dream of Nebuchadnezzar ends with a rock striking the feet of the statue, and the whole statue is crumbled and disintegrated basically, and the rock is referred to as the Rock of Ages, which is Jesus, and this event is the return of Christ. You know, it's purely symbolic. It doesn't mean Jesus is a meteor or a comet or anything like that. He is just known as the Rock throughout the Bible because you can depend on God, you know what I mean? He is dependable, he's strong like a rock, and he's the Rock of Ages, the rock that was cut without human hands. It basically means divine origin. So this rock striking the feet is the return of Christ, and as I said before, we are living in the era of the feet of iron and clay, with the 10 toes representing the 10 kingdoms. Now, who are these 10 kingdoms? When Rome fell, it split into exactly 10 separate nations. These nations were the Saxons, which then became England, the Franks, which then became France, the Alemanni, which then became the German nation, the Visigoths, which then became Spain, the Suevi, which then became the Portuguese, the Lombards, which then became Italy, and then we have the Burgundians, and this became the Swiss nation, Switzerland, and the Heruli, which were exterminated in 493, the Vandals, which were also exterminated in 534 AD, and finally the 10th kingdom is the Ostrogoths, which was exterminated in 538 AD. And the extermination of these 3 kings, or 3 kingdoms, is from the prophecy in Daniel 7:23 through 24. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. We just listed them. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. So the 3 kings that we mentioned before, the Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths, they were exterminated between the years of 493 and 538 AD. So the New World Order will fail, and let's look at the verse that tells us that will happen. So it's Daniel 2, verse 43. And whereas thou saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So some people think that they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Some people think that this they means fallen angels, but it absolutely does not. It means human kings and kingdoms. Because in the previous verse, the 10 toes, the 10 feet were part iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So it is kings because the toes are at the head of the feet, and there's 10 of them. So it's 10 kingdoms in this last and final empire. And they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, meaning the populations of the earth. That's what it means, the seed of men. So the 10 kings will mingle themselves with the seed of men. It's basically the nations of the world, but they shall not cleave to one another. It's not talking about sexual intercourse, it's 10 kings, 10 nations, mingling itself with the population of the earth, forming a new world order. And this is why it will fail. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So some nations are not going to go along with the New World Order. And if we see the next verse, and in the days of these kings, so it's telling you something's going to happen in the days of these kings, the 10 kings that we've just been talking about. And in the days of these kings shall God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So the closer we get to the New World Order, the closer we get to the return of Jesus Christ. Now that's Bible prophecy, folks. 2,500 years of prophecy. We're in the time of the clay feet. The clay and iron feet. We're in that time. That's now. That time started in 476 AD with the fall of the Roman Empire, the Iron Legs, which then turned into the 10 kings of Europe with the papacy controlling everything from 538 AD to 1798. That is the time that the Antichrist persecuted the saints. Now you know this is true because history tells us. History confirms the Bible. The New World Order will fail. Jesus is coming. Run to Christ.
He knows the truth.
Let's wake them up then, shall we?